That's a good question. Are you telling me it hasn't started yet?
Here, hold on. All right.
Paintbrush and a dream. Paintbrush and a dream. It's a paintbrush and a dream. It's a paintbrush and a dream. Paintbrush and a dream. Paintbrush and a dream.
How did you find that?
All right. Well, we have Chris Shank, who is with Estimate Rocket, also a longtime friend of the host of this show, which is me. Welcome to Paintbrush and a Dream. Glad to have you here, Chris.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Jason. I was feeling very professional like 10 seconds ago.
So that was a picture of you because you exercise. You like to work out. I believe that photo is from 2017. You like to lift weights.
I think it's fair to say that.
Yeah. Is this like an art feature you're doing where Estimate Rocket is taking over your personality?
I try to stay active.
Yeah.
I go to the gym, do strength training. I try to go out and run and I do a lot of walk run kind of stuff. But I just try to stay active.
Why are you doing that?
It's always been a health thing. I mean, to be honest, it started out as a kid, you want to be buff, you want to be ripped. The only thing I did for a long time that I could see progress on, like I could use some measurement of, am I making progress? Am I changing? And probably the most consistent I was with any one thing. It took me a long time to find my groove, what it is what skills I had, what skills I wanted to develop. All that changes up into your late 20s, or for me it did. So kind of being able to mess with that program a little bit and see the results of incremental changes was, I think, probably why I stuck with it for so long. And then the aesthetic of body sculpting to some degree, that was always kind of fun for me. Also the health benefit, obviously, you could do a lot more. The more fit you are, the more healthy you are. And then you have the pride of thinking like, I'm doing everything I can do in this one area. There's a bunch of reasons.
Let's turn your background off.
Yep. How about this?
I feel like that's even better. You said it was something that you could stay consistent with during a period of time where there's lots of shiftings. It's hard to find the skills you want to hone and can stay consistent with. Maybe speak to that a little bit. What does that mean? You feel like you found that? You're in your, looks like late 20s now, very early 30s, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm 44 right now. First, a lot of change in my life. What I want for my kids is a better foundation. I want them to have more self-awareness of what they're good at and what they could build on, because you would like to think when you're 20, you kind of know what you're good at and what you want to do. And then you have 20 years till you're 40 to build on that. I felt like every 3 to 5 years I was changing. And a lot of that was because of my raising. Parents provide the best foundation for you that they can, not knowing exactly what direction you're going to go, but they try to kind of pick a direction. Hopefully they made progress from the last generation before them, and they want you to make progress beyond them. Sometimes you're kind of still not pointed accurately. Maybe I think that was for me. Probably it was a universal thing. It didn't need to be particular to who I was, specific to my body style or my strength. It was just anybody working out, doing certain things can make progress. You don't have to be good at it necessarily. I think that's why. Here's the thing. If you apply yourself 40 minutes to an hour almost daily, so some kind of fitness regimen, you could pretty much pick your results. And we should stay active. You'd think 40 minutes to an hour a day, like we're built for that kind of exercise. So anything less doesn't seem right. I don't think it's even doing justice to your full health system. But if you committed that, I think you could pick whatever results you want. It doesn't take being a bodybuilder or an athlete to see progress physically, in my opinion. It just took me a long time to kind of find my way out of some of the things that I was entrenched in as a kid. It was a very radical religious perspective that I was raised with. Also, it was very low socioeconomic status, low education. I just think there was a bunch of things there that I was fighting against that I had to kind of find my way. It just took me a while.
What are the skills and grooves as you are in your 40s now? Do you feel like you're more self-aware than you were in your 20s and your 30s? And if so, what are those awarenesses of your skills?
I do think I am more self-aware. I am an educator, not in the very academic sense, although I love academia. I feel like I understand, one, how I changed and grew as a result of learning things that stuck with me. I believe learning and education is more about the transformation of who you are, not as much about a transmission of information. That's really important because one's being informed, but when you're educated, think about what that means. Something sticks, and I believe that it's something that's made an applied change in your life. Matter of fact, I would say true education is applied science of change. If we really want to say, what do we mean when we say educated? And so I love helping people achieve change. I love seeing people make a change because I've loved it in my own life. I think, who was it that said, was it Aristotle or some old Greek philosopher, I think it was, that said, those who are educated versus those who are uneducated, it's almost the difference as between life and death. There's a lot of misery when you don't know what to do to change your situation. When you finally can realize, here's how that change happens, and when you make that change, it is like coming alive. You know, I have my undergrad in criminal justice. I've got my graduate degree in education. I also studied theology. I've worked in a bunch of different environments. I feel like I have really good perspective. I read a lot of books and I love it. I do it mostly because I love it, but I also did it for a long time because I need it. So I needed it and I love it. That doesn't mean you're educated just because you read. It means you're informed. I do try to process and apply what I've learned so that there's the education part. I just love helping people achieve that. Relationships, I think. I went through a divorce. I'm remarried now. I'm a dad of 2 teenagers. My girl just turned 17 this week. And I think I've matured over time. I learned myself, a lot of experimenting with, like, what
Drugs.
What drug? What makes me feel better? What makes me think better? What makes me perform better? Trial and error. And I'm a pretty honest person. I think when you get to know me a little bit, I'm pretty honest with myself. I think the worst lie a person can lie about is it's the lie to yourself. I don't really lie to myself. I think a whole lot. That helps me be honest with other people. I'm a learner, through and through. And I think that helps me in my relationships. So there's a few ways in which I think I've been hitting some grooves and stabilizing a little bit, putting out roots in my life. I love roots. I just had so much movement, so much adventure, maybe. I really want stability. Everybody needs that. Hopefully, as you age, you experience some of this anyway. For my temperament and for my background, it's taken a little while, but I am happy. I am really happy. Doesn't mean I don't have problems and challenges and frustrations.
You said the difference between being informed and being educated comes down to a change or an action. As the good book says, faith without action is dead.
Yeah, it's in theory. It's kind of learning in theory. Then there's learning in practice, and it makes all the difference. So you want again, I do think education, the applied science of change, studying how to change, and specifically how to change from an idea. An idea could be demonstrated for you, but it also can be communicated verbally, which is amazing to me. That you could say a word that pushes buttons and pulls levers in my head, and then I start doing stuff. Literally, that's what language is, or communication anyway. It is you moving the world by casting your words. I just think that's amazing. That's another part of education that's amazing.
So you said you have 2 kids and you're trying to establish a foundation for them that you felt like you did not have. Is that kind of the primary purpose of humanity, is to obviously procreate, but then develop our progeny?
Yeah. I read a couple books recently. Just finished a book by Lawrence Krauss. So he wrote a book called The Edge of Knowledge. He said basically in a lot of scientific disciplines, what do we know and what do we not know? And he kind of explored the edges of that. But they said evolution, or nature, let's just say nature, doesn't seem to care a whole lot about what happens to you after you procreate, after you hit 30. Our hardware it seems like we're better evolved or better adapted to life under 30. Just, everything after that, you really have to try to start salvaging and saving and getting smarter and smarter to kind of outwit your biology a little bit. I don't feel like the purpose is external to me of what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what? I'm really beating around the bush here to say I'm not sure I believe in a far universal external purpose, other than what seems to be driving me is good relationships, yes, healthy identity, happiness. I want that for me. I want that for my kids. If there is a purpose and there's, the universe means something or God means something, I'm not sure I've discovered that for me personally, but I personally aim for happiness for myself, health, a sense of purpose, even if they're, just whatever I feel is right mostly. And then I want that for my kids too. I want them to experience that. I want them to be happy. I want them to be very healthy. I say that all the time to the kids. I want them to be happy and healthy. Those seem to be starters. Let's just call them starters, because we all kind of want that, right? Anything beyond that, I think you kind of have to debate.
You said you want your kids to have it better. So not just a starter, but like a start, like a next step start. If we say our purpose is to give our progeny a better start, happier and healthier, where does that staircase ascend to?
Happier and healthier. More happy, more healthy.
Where do those steps go to? Is that our purpose, is just to have kids that are more grounded in what we perceive as wellness. Is that what we should be focused on as a species? It's maybe a little more on the forefront when you're on the frontier. When you get into big cities, it gets a little bit less emphasized. If we are driven to have those incremental steps up, where does that staircase lead to?
I'm not sure if intrinsically we're really all that concerned beyond our own family line. I don't know instinctually like what that really means. I do care about the future of humanity though. So maybe it's an abstract of my connections. Maybe that's what kind of our brain means when it says that, because it
Like
kind of
just people, or also like dogs and cats?
yeah, future of life, right? I'm not sure I care about dogs and cats though.
Right. Because they're not, I think if I were to point to something, they're not conscious in the same way that humans are. Right?
I
We have a
agree.
special godlike quality to us that cats and dogs don't have.
It's a degree of consciousness, just like I would say, like, I mean, in my perspective, like the apes have maybe more than cats and dogs. Like cats and dogs have more than bugs. Like bugs have more than plants. Maybe that's the closest I can get. You could call it in a godlike quality. There is like a godlike leap, it seems, even between the apes and
External architecture at its core, even from a theological perspective, right? Outside of the bounds of faith, you'd say that God is a creator, right? Creates. And that's the unique part about humans is we are creators. We create in a way that's different, right? Where we can architect our external environment to degrees that are
2 degrees.
magnitudes beyond.
Magnitudes beyond. I think that's fair, and I think I would agree to that. Just like animals can inventiveness with animals
Yeah.
beyond.
Beavers can create dams, right? So that'd be the counter to that. You'd say,
I
well,
mean, look
Jason,
at yeah, look at this.
have you ever heard of a beaver?
Or a
Checkmate,
spider.
Christian. Well, good point.
But no, I think it's fair. I mean, I value humanity. I value what's
Yeah.
happening to us more than I do what's happening to the cats and dogs. I mean, more than bugs. Yeah. And there's something I value, probably because it's in likeness to me, probably because there's a close association between humanity and me, because it's in my likeness, or I'm in its likeness, that I want to see it continue. And maybe I'm a proxy, or it's a proxy for me. And so, yes, I want to see more of me in the future. But I don't think that's.
So you don't believe in diversity?
I believe in diversity, the diversity of me. No, I'm trying to explain in a very materialistic, maybe naturalistic way.
What purpose?
Why do we
do you
care
see?
about purpose? For purpose, especially for further humanity beyond myself and my kids, because clearly we all want to see humanity succeed. Most everybody, unless it seems like you have enough. Very rarely, I think, do people not want to see it succeed. Yes, I would like to see my kids, their families, people around be happy, healthier for a long time. In the short run,
At
with
the
that,
detriment of everybody else, you would say.
outside of anybody, yeah, well, no,
To the detriment of
no. Oh, you mean
Okay.
the animals or what? Right, people?
or people.
No, I think by extension, I would apply that to all people.
So you'd say, I'm trying to corner you. You'd say,
Yeah.
I want my progeny to not be as happy and healthy as they could be. I'd rather that everybody do well.
Oh no, I definitely think it extends outwards from the ones you love and know best.
So you say, I want my progeny to do well at the expense of other people.
I would probably say I want my progeny to do well along with other people. And then if you were to give me an option to say, but what if your only choice was at the expense of?
If I were badgering you in a podcast.
No, if you gave me the only choice to say, would you want your kids to do worse than everybody else or better than everybody else? If that was the Hobson's choice, I would go with definitely better than everybody else.
By having them being happier and healthier, it meant that the rest of the world was going to suffer. Would you still want that?
If that was my only choice for my kids to suffer or the world to suffer, I think I would want the world to suffer. Would that be my absolute choice given an ultimatum? I'm not sure, but I definitely lean towards the direction of make the world suffer. But again, that's a forced choice between the two. Yeah. I would say ideally we'd have a third option in there, which is the greatest good for the greatest number, including my kids. That's but the trick of the forced choice, yeah, that's a tough. I know the trolley.
This is a little bit of the trolley, yeah.
But I like it because it's a little bit of a catch-22. The greatest good for the greatest number, but it does have to start at home, I think, and there is self-preservation and family preservation. I think that is a biological imperative that it's really hard to override. You have to have a really good reason. I don't think altruism exists really an abstract in a way that's going to overcome your feelings for something that's a little bit more of a direct self-preservation and preservation of my family, which I believe, by the way, preservation of family is an extension of self-preservation. So who is it? Aristotle that said a friend is a second self. Hard to define what the self is depending on how you're changing over time. Am I the self that does these bad things, or the self that does these good things, or the ones I project to other people, or the worst I think about myself? Self is kind of an interesting thing. Take it out of the context of other people, including your family. Who am I if I'm not a father? Who am I if I'm not a brother? Who am I? So we kind of conceive of self in relationship. When we're protecting our kids, I think we are protecting the self that is wrapped up in those kids. That's the mystery about and the complexity of the concept of self. So I think that self can extend indefinitely to families, community, state, country, world. I think it can, but I think it gets softer around the edges, your commitment to that identity, I think. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
What do you
there's a
think?
selfishness. I care for humanity because it's a reflection of myself. But if I had to choose between my family and society and the external society of that, I would preserve my family over the society. Now, what's interesting with that is, what if you said, would you preserve yourself over your family? Then it seems to flip. That's the weird part, right?
Yeah, but like I said, I think
Trolley problem where it's you or your family
Right,
is different than the
right.
trolley problem where it's your family or society, right? One
Yeah.
is, you'd think that the further you get away from yourself, the more willing you are to give that up.
Obviously, we see people that sacrifice themselves for a community that they may not know, or a world they may not know, a stranger. You see this from time to time, even on videos now it's captured. People put themselves in harm's way for a stranger. Why would that be? And I think, again, your concept of self may be, I care for other people. And the I that cares for other people would jump out and rescue this person I have no connection to, no feelings for. In a sense, you're sacrificing a body, but preserving this I, this self that you conceive of as a good person. It seems to be the best way I can conceive of what's happening, because it's really, some of it's a pretty big mystery to me anyway.
So you think that the only reason socialism doesn't work is we have yet to truly shift our identities?
Socialism, as well, it depends on if it's a historical expression of socialism or if it's like the pure concept of socialism.
So let's just say the concept of how do we architect our economy? Is it around selfishness and self-preservation?
Yeah.
Or is it around the greater collective well-being? And you would say that greater collective well-being works if our identity is rooted in that. The problem is that our identity is not rooted in that, because when it is, we do in fact pull the lever, sacrifice ourselves for the greater well-being, because that is our identity, that is who we are. Is that what you're saying?
I say it's a potential. I mean, I'd say everybody's going to do different in that trolley situation, depend on. But I think, yeah, if you were to sacrifice self or family for the sake of society, then there is something there that you're identifying with the greater good. I'd say you're identifying yourself with the greater good. But it's the interesting thing is probably a lot of people would solve that a little differently, which means we have a conflict of probably imperatives. Each of us individually, and probably each person leads a little differently. But I think depending on what time it is, depending on what time of the day you're at that lever, but what time of your life, I just talked about all the transitions I've been through. I guarantee I would have put it differently at different times. Earlier in my life, I would have probably sacrificed self and family quicker. I would be less quick now to do that. It's really hard to say. But I think there's a little bit of conflict there because, one, I believe in ownership. I believe that you have to kind of start with securing what you have here and expand that outwards. Otherwise, what are you really offering people in your relationships if you have not secured anything at the center? In other words, if you're not a contributor, you're not an earner, then what are you bringing to the table? You kind of have to start with something, and you call that self-love, and you kind of maybe self-acceptance and building outwards from believing in yourself and what you're doing. I hope parents can bring their kids into that type of situation. You could call that a contributor or an earner, in my opinion. As families turn into communities to states, states to countries, it seems like we're losing our sense of boundary for what is ours. He says society, it seems, is becoming a mitigation of ownership. I love that idea of what society is versus what the individual is. Surely you have to preserve a sense of relationship, but preserve a sense of individuality. I don't see any really healthy relationship between the two unless you really do preserve the definitions as much as possible, even their evolving definitions.
What religion is the correct religion?
I like your questions.
What religion is the correct religion?
Oh yeah, no, it's first of all, fun questions. I think I'm one of those guys. You're gonna hate it, Jason. I think there's a little bit of truth in all religions. I think I would never go to Jason Paris and ask Jason to explain to me the history of the universe up till now. I would never. Why? Because Jason's very limited. The brain actually, somebody described this one time as is more eliminative in nature. There's so much information barraging me right now. The best my brain could do is limit most of it, eliminate maybe 99% of all the data streaming at me right now, and focus on something. Now, how does it choose to focus? That's a whole other topic. I don't think it always picks the right things, number one, and it can't pick all things. So I think by nature, any idea that's run through a human being is going to be limited, and I think it's going to be subject to some error, just like our science. It's unfair across the board. So no, I don't think anyone's the right one. Sometimes I think some are more helpful than others.
Helpful for what?
Well, helpful. Okay, so with health, and I'll stick to the health and happiness theme, but I think you could poke some holes in it because health and there seems to be a little more complex than that. But what makes me more healthy and happier as an individual? And then, of course, as you bring a bunch of individuals together, say, hey, it's good for this one. Can we say what's good for most individuals? Can you then create a generalization for beyond that? So what provides most health and happiness for the greatest number for the individuals around it? Now, something like pick something.
You're utilitarian. You would say whoever gets the most happiness, let's give them all the keys to the castle.
It depends. No, I don't think I would just say that. I'd say in some cases that. Well, let's pick something. Let's just pick something. Scientology. I don't like anything that you have to give over your mind to do for something to do the thinking for you. I do think there's
You don't believe in alarm clocks.
So no, yeah, I do. I actually do believe in alarm clocks. I believe in some. So
Yeah.
there's the exceptions. Is that in general, I don't believe that in giving something over. I wouldn't believe in an alarm clock deciding when to set itself, but I do think there are
You want to
times.
architect the alarm clock to serve a purpose that you've preset.
However, that's assuming I was taught how to use an alarm clock. So somebody
And
else.
that you know your purpose.
And then I know my purpose. Yes.
Yeah.
There are times in your life, I think, where you have to outsource your thinking to a belief system. Who is it said? I think it was William James said, belief is thought at rest. At some point, you just got to accept it and do it. Let somebody else figure out all the mechanics of how or why it works. Do I think that we always outsource it? No. And you got to have to be very careful. There's no authority that you don't choose to be your authority. So you're the authority of all your authorities.
Yeah.
At no point in anybody's life.
That's why we ate the apple. We wanted to be the authority, right?
I think that's part of what it was.
The story is we lived in paradise. There was a God creator, had belief in and trusted. We wanted to become our own gods. And to do that, the prerequisite is knowledge. And so by consuming that, we then open up Pandora's box and say, well, now we are our own gods and we're not the best. And we create a lot of pain and suffering. It's us we are the ones creating the pain and the suffering.
Yes, I think there's definitely some of that. God did assign suffering to woman and man and the snake. You could say we caused it because.
Well, I'd say what is suffering though?
What is suffering?
So I think we get to purpose. I don't know if it's to be happy and healthy.
Okay.
I think our purpose is to be in communion with the universe, the everything, the oneness with God. So our purpose is to be in relationship, in communion. I'll say God, a oneness of the universe.
Okay.
Right. And suffering is separating ourselves from that.
I actually like that definition.
Yeah.
So you say a lot of that stuff and I like it. Sometimes it's when we go further down into some of the details. Well, I might part ways there. The letting go of the ego. I don't believe in a loss of ego or a sense of self. I do believe there's some sort of a compromise of it though. A lessening of a full dependence maybe on it or a full emphasis in favor of the not self or other. I like the idea of not sacrifice of self because the thing is I've seen that go too far and you probably
letting go of pride.
See,
I don't
pride's
know how
a
to
good
phrase
word
it. There's probably different words or different phrases. So like letting go of ego, what's a different way I can say that?
Is you're letting go of full dependence. You don't want to lose self or there's nothing left to give to God.
You want to contribute yourself to the universe. Heaven would be in communion with God with all those who have chosen to commune with them.
Yeah, I like that. I like working through that a little bit. I think what you're trying to get at is what I do believe in to some degree. I was raised with a version of it that it was martyrdom. It was also a defacement, devaluation of self in order to glorify God. But
I'm a worm and you're just a worm. Like, no, I am the apex of creation. I am the most godlike thing on this earth.
Yeah.
You have to hold those two things in tension. Like in contrast to God, yes, I'm a worm. Okay. But also I'm pretty awesome.
Right. No, I would even say in a very naturalistic, I'll say naturalistic because it's not that I don't believe in any religious perspective at all. I pick and choose and I cherry pick very honestly. So there's some things I like and some things I'm like, I don't know how useful it is for me. Some things I'm like, we're a speck in the universe. We're also the most complex beings in the universe as far as we know so far.
Could be the only consciousness.
could be the only consciousness. Yeah, that's close to being godlike in a sleep. If we're
The
awake,
other planets listed in Genesis.
right? That's right.
So, but what is not divinely inspired? What is divinely inspired in all of our lives? Well, Chris, what do you see here? What does this look like to you?
That looks like a rib cage,
Yeah,
torso or something.
a torso with the rib cage,
Yeah,
physical body, a self. Very interesting.
Yes.
What is this?
The Shroud of Turin.
What?
The Shroud of Turin, the burial cloth of Jesus. No,
Okay.
yeah, actually, that's the first thing I think of, because that was something that it was so mysterious as a kid that the Catholics say that this is a real relic. I think they were claiming, and still do, that it's relic, and it's very debated on whether or not when Jesus resurrected, he singed the burial shroud and left the imprint of. That's what it reminds me
I
of.
suppose if you die and then come back, there's probably some sort of energy transfer, right?
Maybe.
I can only imagine the physical conundrums that happen when your soul exits your body and then comes back.
It's probably a very confused process.
Metaphysical.
Metaphysical.
So this looks like the burial. What's it called?
The Shroud of Turin, the burial cloth of Jesus. I'm trying to be honest with my first perspective.
Yeah, don't forget this down here. People miss this one.
Yeah, that's very important. That's very important. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
It looks like, I think I see eyes in the middle and a snout in the middle, horns to the side, but I wasn't thinking religious, even though we've been talking religion. I was thinking of something like a Mortal Kombat figure. Those things on TikTok, how they do this morphing into.
Oh, yeah.
They'll morph you into like a
demons. Yeah.
Mortal Kombat and stuff. That's what it looks like, a morphing of somebody into that.
Okay. Self, ribcage, body, shroud, Jesus, face, energy transfer, singeing, morphing from human into something else. Okay.
Right.
A bit of a theme here.
You see a theme? Okay. I think you're looking for a theme like I'm looking for the picture. You know what that's called? Is seeing a pattern where no pattern is? Apophenia.
Yeah, a lot of themes. A lot of apophenia here.
Okay.
This one doesn't look like it's actually a mirror or like symmetrical. This one has a little extra right here.
It's cut off though, I think.
Yeah.
It? Well, I was going to say a pelvis.
Okay.
I know we definitely are on a theme now, but it doesn't take into account the reds or anything. But that was what my brain did with it immediately.
Yeah. You don't care about the reds. You wanted to see the pelvis very strongly.
I just want to see pelvis. I'll be honest with you, Jason. That is a dog. You guys, that is a fiery, hateful dog.
Eye, mouth.
No. Up higher is the eyes. That's the nose is in the middle, and the eyes are up near the top that's an eye, and the other side.
What?
And then the tongue's coming out the bottom.
What? This is the eye?
Yeah, that's an eye. The other side's an eye. It's got red around the eye.
And this is the nose?
And then the nose. And then the tongue.
So to me, this looks like an eye,
an
eye, a nose, cheekbone, mouth, blood, and then like rabbit ears.
Oh, yeah.
Rabbit ears, hair. So that was the correct answer. Almost got it. You almost got that one. Let's try again.
Okay. Oh, man. This is what I'll tell you what this does. We're actually going to a wedding, and it's the theme is Great Gatsby, and that looks like one of the feather things that the girls would wear. What are the girls? Flapper girls? That's what it looks like, a feather headdress thing.
I'm going to write that one down just from my analysis of you.
Very interesting what you're coming up with.
Very interesting. Flapper girls. Okay.
Am I a murderer or? Yes.
Yeah.
The infamous the ram's heads. It looks like ram's heads going different ways, but
opposite directions.
Yes.
Okay. So you are seeing an aversion of conflict in this instead of the natural conflict.
That's right. Or
you wish that there was not conflict.
I think it looks like they were headed for each other and they missed and now they're directing their rage outwardly. They transferred transferred their rage to the wrong people. They missed each other.
They meant to attack each other. Now they're attacking society.
Oh,
We're all
yes.
suffering.
That's right. It's because they were not self-sacrificial enough. Oh, okay. All right. Is there ovaries in this picture?
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to shut this down. You're
I really am.
in a bad spot. No, there's no judgment, obviously.
I'm not trying. Yeah, no.
When I say bad spot, that's a non-judgmental.
I mean bad, not good. I didn't mean bad.
Yeah, like you're doing bad. It's like cool, but not hot. What do you see? What is happening in this scene? And what has just happened and what is about to happen? This is called, this is the section, we're in a new section of this interview. This is called Thematic Apperception.
Okay. I see people in denial of the existence of God.
All right.
Well, come on. That was the best, man. Sorry. I'm sorry. I see people doing DNA testing.
And what is about to happen after they complete this?
They're going to take it out and put it on a what is the lenses? Petri dish.
Yeah.
Petri dish.
What has just happened and what's about to happen?
I love it. I wish I could take you through this all for the first time. We should do it reverse one of these sometime.
Yeah, that would be fun.
What's happened is this guy was crossing the creek. And why? Who knows? Because he probably shouldn't have in the first place. But he fell down. It's not that deep. He's being dramatic. He's just being dramatic. The other guy's standing like, he's like, I mean, you're fine. Stand up. You're fine. And the guy's like, no, I'm not. And he's like, I mean, here, I could throw a rope, but he's very hesitant because he's like, he thinks the guy should just grow up a little bit. He'd probably make more progress in his personal life if he would just realize that everything's okay. Breathe for a second. Look at your situation. It's not as bad as you thought. And breathe through the panic attack. I'd rather not throw you this rope and enable your dramatic behavior and your theatrics. I'd rather you learn and grow. That's what I see there, because nobody cares clearly in that picture. The guy's not really dying. I see his face. He's not. I don't care what you say. Zoom up. I'm telling you, I can tell. And the other guy is standing there like, he just is like, this is not worth me getting my jeans wet a little bit.
There's no right or wrong answer.
You say it like you're not sure. That woman is not her daughter. That young one is not. But she wishes she was, because then she could say, man, you're going to get old and look just like me. But the woman's not. She's going to get old, but she's not going to look old just like her, because they're not related. But the lady, you could tell, older lady just takes so much joy in thinking that somebody else's misery will catch up with hers and she won't be so alone.
That's great. Is okay.
Oh, yes. Classic. Well, it is classic for one. It seems like most men die before their wives do. Seems to me. I think he died, but he looks fairly young. It looks like his arms draped over the side. Now, I don't know. Is his arm, what is that? See, the thing is, it looks like his legs also maybe underneath the blanket, but leaning over. I think he flopped down on the bed and he died, but probably from alcoholism. And she's crying because her husband died. But the fact is, I've seen these types of situations before. She thinks she's sad. She's not going to be so sad once she rationalizes for a few days. Maybe it'll take a couple years. She'll feel sorry for herself, but she's ready to date. Make no mistake about it. She's ready. And if she doesn't start looking to date, it will ambush her. She's going to end up with a wrong dude again. She's not going to break the cycle. But if she's proactive, realizing she never really loved this guy, or if she did, she fell out in love, and that she's okay that he died, then she can be proactive enough to start building a manifesto of who she is and what she wants, and then start dating the right guy. But it's going to take some practice, and it's a volume game to find the right person. But if she does not take control of that situation, she will end up with the same dude in the same situation.
Okay. I want to say there's no wrong answers, but we'll just move on to the next one here.
She brought him to church, clearly. I would say that's her son. And he's not really happy to be there, but she is. And he's like, I should be playing Atari, or what did they have back then? Atari or hoops, the hoops that you push along the road, you know?
The stick in the circle.
But he's like, man, I got to be here. But, you know, he's going to change. He's going to change, and he'll realize that that's a very peaceful place. And he'll be singing hymns with her one day and making his son, who doesn't want to be there, sing as well. Wow. You are so funny, Jason. Jason, you crack me up. I don't even know what that is. Should you tell me or should I just guess?
It's you. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is.
Oh, okay. Well, this was back in I think this looks like 1800s or something.
This is before they had color. Yeah.
Before they had color. They were practicing with iPad technology. And, you know, it was very rudimentary, but they had an early prototype. It was sand or something in there. It was even before this Etch-a-Sketch, but they're going for the iPad thing. And he's just confused because he's like, this is not my era. Should I get a little bit more realistic maybe with some of these or not?
Yeah, you can try again.
Well, I don't know what that is, but
I think it's a violin.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally see it.
You know, sometimes your conscious mind isn't ready for what your body sees. So your eyes could probably see what it was, but you weren't ready to acknowledge it.
Oh,
there might be some violin trauma that you have in your past.
Could be. Yeah, I just think that, you know what? It reminds me of the story of my daughter. She didn't want to practice. She's ADHD. She didn't want to practice her violin. And one time I was like, you haven't been practicing it for weeks. I want you to go practice it for 20 minutes. And she was like, no, I can't do it. I can't focus. And she went to full panic attack. I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought something was wrong with her. And she was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And she was crying. I said, hold them in your hands. And I held her hands and held the violin in the thing. And then I held it up to her and started going and saying, it was like dead arming it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, we're going to sit here for 2 hours. At 2 hours, you can go. We're going to sit here until you start doing it. And you're going to play your lesson. And I'm going to count 20 minutes. But we'll wait here for 2 hours. She started doing it. I can't do it. Eventually finished our 20 minutes and it wasn't that bad. But boy, we talk ourselves into some problems, don't we? That's what that makes me think of.
Yeah, that's good. Sounds like that makes more sense why you couldn't see it right away.
Exactly. Oh yeah, they think they're hot. I bleeped that one out. I think that's just an old Hollywood couple, and they think they're hot, and they are. They are hot. I'll be honest with you, but they're not going to be hot before long.
You think that they think that they're hot stuff, but you are also saying that they're not going to be hot for very long.
Yeah, but they are hot right now. But I mean, now in the picture. But these days.
Oh, like compared to the societal standards of today?
Oh no, like
because they're going to age.
I mean, they're dead, probably.
Yeah. These are very old examples of this test. This is our final one of this series.
Okay, that looks like plowing the field. Somebody's plowing the field. Somebody's off to the side. Maybe she's been working. Maybe she has some food for them, or they're just got done cooking or something. But they're probably working pretty hard in the field too. And then maybe this is their daughter, who they don't want to have working in the field, and they want her to live a better life. So they're keeping her clean, keeping her out of the sun, keeping her dressed well, got a book in her hand, sending her to school, so she can be the one to make it further than they made it.
Wow, that was
entertaining.
More than I thought it would be. This is wonderful. What did you think about Playtime?
I liked it a lot. Actually, I kind of was reviewing it a little bit today. When I first watched it, and does your audience know who this is? Or?
Oh yeah, they know Jackie Stati like the back of their hand. 1968 classic, not appreciated in its time. Arguably caused him to go bankrupt.
Oh, did it really?
But nowadays, it's on the Paintbrush and a Dream podcast. It's blowing up. So, artists are rarely appreciated in their time. He's getting the love they appreciate. But yeah, I'd say it was pretty unappreciated when it was released, and now it is appreciated.
I would think it would be appreciated, though. I guess I'm wrong, but it seemed pretty. It played with the whole idea of does everybody know what they're really doing? I mean, I thought about behavioral fluidity. Like there's things we're doing and thinking and saying that flow into what other people are doing and thinking and saying that's also flowing into other people. What we think we're responding to, I'm going to give an example, a couple examples in there. But what we think we're responding to is not maybe the actual situation. So we're adding some new element that's maybe not a direct correlation to what is actually happening. And the people are feeding off that and giving their response to something they don't fully understand, bring more people into the equation. And what a mess we make, but also maybe a beautiful mess. The fact that we make any sense out of it at all. Okay, so an example might be the drunk guy wandering in and off the streets, like into this club. And like he's looking up and there's this little sign that's kind of pointing. The lights go around and point into the club. Do you remember this? Okay. So he's kind of looking up and he circles around and he goes into the club and then he's like interacting with people and they don't know that he's just some junk off the street. They see him there and they take him for maybe a normal person. One guy's like, he's looking through a map of the city and he asks him for what's like, hey, this over here. And the guy's going like looking through the map and the guy pulls the map away because he has something else that took his attention and goes over there. But he's still looking at the wall and trying to trace out stuff maybe in the marble of the post or whatever. And some other guy is walking by and sees him and he's explaining to him what used to be a map. And the other guy has no frame of reference, what he's pointing at or why, what he's explaining, what it came from. But he's sitting there and like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, as onlookers, you see, oh, so what he didn't see was this other thing here that the drunk guy never understood anyway. He was only going through the motion. So that's an example, a lot of different things that people were kind of weaving in and out of other people's stories, creating a new story that other people wove in and out of. And it kind of presented this metropolitan, like inner city, all these complex happenings that there was no one complete story, almost like stream of thought. But that's why I thought of like stream of behaviors that we all are together. And how are you ever going to find the beginning or the end of some of those threads? You won't ever. You're kind of playing the best with the game that's presenting itself at the moment, making the most sense of that you can of it. And anyway, I thought that seemed to be what was happening in a lot of the movie. You think that's fair? What do you think about that?
So I think it talks to a lot of modern day life as we've transitioned to city life and inherent bureaucracy that creates and a playful examination of that bureaucracy. So the scene where we've got our everyman character, right? Nothing special. And he's kind of traversing the city and moving in and out. And he goes into this building. He's going to meet with somebody. And they're like, oh, wait here. And it's a 40-second clip of somebody walking down a hallway.
Oh, yeah.
To come meet him. Then
and you hear the shoes. Yeah. All the sounds were great. It's like it was the old ASMR, in my opinion.
You're just going to have to wait a few minutes in this other room. Yeah, the interconnectedness of parts that a modern bureaucracy requires, all the storylines that interplay within there. There's a lot. I'd say like in the early part when they're in the airport, there are a lot of items that would draw our attention, but we're not the main focal point of the story. We're all living our independent lives in this larger interconnected story. And what draws our attention is just a part of the whole that may not even be the main story of the whole.
Right. Like you say, like we're being drawn into this piece that we see, but it may not be the whole. It's just this little isolated.
It actually did well. So I was just looking it up. It did well. It got second place at some Moscow festival. It was not a commercial success. So it did not earn back a significant portion of its production budget. So financially, it did not do well, but it is appreciated nowadays.
No, I'm glad that's being appreciated. But I would have thought it was appreciated at the time. That's interesting.
It was probably a little too early. A little bit of postmodernism. Maybe people were like still really enamored with modernism.
Yeah.
Wow, this is real and it's a good story and it's very well done. Like Top Gun Maverick. And people are like, I love airplane. Like there's no twists. There's no plot twists. It's just excitement and like a plot arc and it's pretty straightforward and it looks real.
Yeah.
I think people were still pretty into that. This is 1968.
As everybody was into it, and that's part of what he was saying. You got the bus of tourists that's going around and seeing, and a lot of times they're really interested in stuff. I'm like, that's probably everywhere. And they're from the United States visiting, I guess it would be
France,
France.
I think, or
Yeah,
London. Yeah.
I think it's France, but
Yes.
they're appreciating stuff that you're like, clearly is probably happening over. And they're taking pictures of like the silliest little thing. It's almost like a tourist to be a tourist sometimes. And then not even understanding the full. Matter of fact, one person, wasn't she like trying to take a picture of somebody, then she got in to kind of fix something, and then somebody else came up,
Yeah,
and she was part of the scene and took a picture of her, and it's this
Cursive.
recursive. Maybe it's recursive. That's what I'm looking for. It's like
Yeah.
this hall of mirrors of like you kind of see further and further. You think you see the back of your head, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just,
I think it was a little too. It was really pointing and poking at the complexities of modern day life
yeah,
that people had not gotten familiar enough with them to be able to playfully joke about them.
that could be.
It takes a while to become fully immersed in something to where you can start to playfully make fun of it.
Yeah, or before you could recognize it too. Like
Right.
I think sometimes it's one thing to say, I understand what you're saying. I just don't think it's funny right now.
Right.
But I wonder if they didn't quite understand. I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating because it seems all of it's pretty obvious. Like, he's going around the cubicles in that one space and then going back and forth, trying to find his way. The guy's in one cubicle.
Right. Yeah. Just to print a piece of paper, it's like, again, that speaks to the bureaucracy of a modern day system. You'd be like, why can't this be simpler? And it's like, well, the reason it can't is you have all these interconnected parts that make this complex stage possible.
Yeah.
But with that scale creates insane amounts of inefficiency.
I
think I appreciate that being a small business owner and also working in nonprofits, and just that there's some bureaucracies and nimbleness and this interplay between the two. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I appreciated it. It was fun. It was kind of actually, I also took some solace in the fact that it was so much chaos that didn't bother me. In your own life, when you have bureaucracy, when you hear chaos and things,
inefficiency and
like it impacts your own happiness. Let's say
the restaurant was chaos. Yeah,
the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yes, where they're all like singing, and then everybody's
not ready to open.
Yeah.
But it didn't bother. It didn't stress you out. It didn't cause you anxiety because you were. Because
there's a light tone to it. It's just funny that chaos, I was watching some of it at night. I split it up, but and I don't even think I was getting tired, but I found it restful. It felt restful, oddly enough. And I think that's, this phenomenon of people listening to ASMR, where if you look and you watch how people are tapping the mic and talking, it can almost be very irritating. Do you know about ASMR?
Yeah.
Okay. This was the weirdest thing for me, but having background noise that doesn't involve you can be a very peaceful thing, just by virtue of the fact that it's almost like a reiteration of you're not needed here, or this is not going to hurt you. It's like noise that says you're safe. I wonder if there's some value in that whole thing too, and the chaos that isn't hurtful. It's kind of funny. It's background hum. I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't require your input to exist. You might feel your existence is so dependent on your performance. That's nice to have something that's not dependent on your performance.
Yeah. You know what it is too? That's exactly it. That's the phrase. Another example of what would apply to that would be, did you like The Office? Do you watch The Office?
Yeah.
When they open, you'll kind of hear the office noises, answering phones, things, office chairs squeaking and stuff, just to kind of set the tone. There's something very safe and comforting about that. And I think even being in an office and living your life in that kind of bureaucracy can make you feel safe, that if there's busyness, there's the hum of the daily humdrum kind of stuff, then you're not seen, you're not being called out for a special task. There's no pressure. And maybe that encourages bureaucracy, the inflation of bureaucracy, when people are like, actually, bureaucracy means I'm not held accountable, or my feet aren't held to the fire. That might be kind of nice. And that unfortunately might encourage bureaucracy. It's probably a lesson for people in make sure your busyness doesn't just become that background hum for people that puts them to sleep. I don't know. Tactics can sometimes do that in place of strategy. Hey, all these little tweaks that we make to kind of keep doing these little things better, having fun, to making sure things are rolling and seem busy. But if you're not moving in the right direction and taking real kind of strategic risks, maybe sometimes, then you're really rocking everybody to sleep with just regular busyness. It's a metronome.
White Noise
White Noise. What,
was a recommendation from you. You recommended this movie to me.
White Noise. Tell me what you thought.
I was thinking of you while I was watching it, so it made me think of it a little bit deeper. It seemed like the kind of film where you would write an analysis on certain scenes, like a reflection on the fear of death and how that affects our everyday lives. Having death in the foreground of your thoughts can put your life in the background, but your life can there's like an escapist way to not deal with that dread. So the closing scene where they're all dancing and buying things they don't need, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like, that is a good example.
The comfort of the supermarket is,
yeah. Well, and I think they earlier in the movie talked about what the supermarket is, and that was my biggest takeaway from it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good book or a good movie.
Yeah, well, good. I liked it. I'm sure it's probably got something for everybody, and something that there's probably little pieces that nobody likes. But I like that he said that all plots move deathward in one point. They were talking about plots, and that they wanted to get to the point where they don't have any plans for their day, because the more plans that they have and they execute on the plans, all it does is speed up the end of that, which just sucked all this time. So now the goal is, which is it's counterintuitive. It kind of feels like if I just don't have as many plans, but it did feel like a cure a little bit for my idea that we always have to be doing something, or that we always have to be getting somewhere. Because it is burning a lot of life. I feel like in my time, I think as people get older, they want to just appreciate what is, instead of always getting to the next thing, looking for what is not. I'm reading right now The Power of Now, and I love it. I used to think it was like a religious, mystical book. I don't really think it is. It's by Eckhart Tolle. It's really just about saying, like, there's something happening in the moment that doesn't happen in the past or the future in your head. You're living a lot of life in your head. How much are you actually living in the here right now? And I guess the goal of doing this is to enjoy more of your life, instead of being like, no, I got to get to this thing and I got to do this thing. Again, if all plots, according to that movie, if all plots move deathward, it's like, how do I forestall that process? Just slow it down a little bit and really kind of say, like, and no matter if you believe in a heaven or what comes next, afterlife, anything, you'll never get this again in the same way. I mean, I think most religions,
unless you believe in reincarnation,
but even reincarnation is not into the same
stream. The different
necessarily. But there may be something. I think there's one by Nietzsche called the the philosophy of eternal recurrence, and I think it's everything that has been done will always be done, or something. And I don't think it was a strict philosophy. I think it was a way of thinking about time. But regardless, I think most even religions are saying this is a very unique experience, and I like that idea a lot. Like, instead of, I think you have to think about death. I think you have to make plans for the future. I think you have to be practical about it. If I'm all about more health and happiness, I want that now, but I want that to continue in a lot of nows that are coming up. You have to plan for yourself. That's why I think that's what makes us human mostly, is the ability to project a future in ourselves into that future. I think that's a lot of what self-awareness is kind of seeing yourself as an object in this plan for the future. And even now, you kind of have a sense of who you are in the now picture. So I think that's a beautiful thing about humanity. But there's a lot of time that gets drained in your plans and your projects and in your futures that you think about. So, I had my daughter's birthday party last night, and I just wanted to sit there and how do I really soak this in? How do I just enjoy it? You can't make it stay. I'm not talking about that, but really being in the moment and not
put on those Apple glass thing, record it.
Apple glasses.
Yeah, the Apple goggle mask.
Oh, now this is not like the Google glass. This
Vision
is
Pro.
new.
No, the ones that cover your eyes so that your family can't see you. But then there's like a weird reflection of your eyes on the external LED screens. Have you seen that?
No, I guess I haven't.
Okay. There's a couple Apple shows ago, whatever they call them. The Vision.
Oh, okay.
Vision Pro.
Oh, you can see through it. That's right.
You can't see through it. It's this. They have cameras looking at your eyes, and then that's displayed on an external screen.
It's a display?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so weird.
It is so weird. Anyways, that's how you be present at your daughter's
That's right.
birthday
So you
party,
can be
and
doing
you capture the moment, and they'll
and you're
never go
multi-
away.
and
So
you're multitasking.
this is completely normal.
Crazy. Do you know there was a? Have you watched Black Mirror at all on Netflix?
I did for a while, and
You probably
then
can stop.
I feel like I feel like I just haven't watched the new season
Oh,
because
okay.
they stopped in 2020 because real life was getting so weird.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple really good new ones, by the way. But I mean, in the new season. But
Okay.
the one you probably saw was they have some kind of implant, and it records everything you ever see with your eyes.
Yeah.
Very interesting. That I don't even think that's a way of. We're all about preserving memories and stuff. No matter how close you get to what your actual experiences are, if we could record everything as is, I'm sure we would relive that again and again and again. But there's something very fresh and true and unrepeatable about the moment. That could you do that? I think about all the pictures and videos we take now that just will end up. You throw your computers away. They have jokes about like your attics being full of all your old computers instead of photos now because that's where you had all your photos. How often do you go through your history of stuff? Now, every once in a while I do when my kid's birthday comes up, and it does feel good to be honest.
Videos of the fireworks.
Videos of the fireworks, which we all rewatch. But yeah, the thing is like, is that really doing what we want it to do?
I had an interesting experience in my basement. I have a box of old photos. We had like a weird condensation thing on one of our pipes, and the box got wet. And so I had to get all those old photos, and they were starting to get wrecked. And so we're peeling them apart and scanning them to digitize them. My daughter was down there with me, and I'm like, you should look at these. This is like our family history. And I'm like, at the end of the day, this will be burned. This will be gone. All the data will be gone. You are going to be our archive system, right? Your DNA will be our archive system. These are just memories, but
Right.
you are our true memory.
Right.
You are the actual archive system.
Right.
So that was an interesting experience.
Okay, I'm going to give you a thought here. The most complete and exhaustive model of the world is the world itself. And, when you're building a memory, whether it's a memory, whether it's a model of what was or is or could be, will never get complex enough to match what actually is. I think for me, that's important to remember that whatever idea you have of what happened is just never going to match up unless you have infinite resources. And if you did, it would be the actual world.
You can never have a map that's detailed enough to represent reality. Otherwise, it would be reality.
I've never heard that. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's cool. Now, is that by somebody?
I've heard that phrase used where it's like, well, at some point, what are you going to include every blade of grass? And then, can you forecast out the way the wind will be blowing on those blades of grass during the battle that's upcoming as you're planning for this battle? No, you're using a map, and a map is a simplification. And so you're going to, by its nature, omit some details.
Right.
And that is a part of planning, is you're going to omit details. Otherwise, you'd be living the experience.
Right.
And you do not omit details. And that understanding of how little we know, I think gets down to a little bit about that religion question. What is the correct religion? Christianity, obviously. This is America, number one country in the world. Whenever people would ask Jesus questions, he would usually answer their questions with the questions. So they'd be like, well, what about this legalistic thing? And he's like, you don't understand anything. I'll just tell you that right now. Your line of questioning just highlights how little you understand about religion and spirituality. And that's kind of just a reality, I think, is we do not understand the world. We do not understand spirituality. We do not understand the universe. Very, very little understanding. We have maps, and maps by their nature omit details.
Yeah, that's very true.
What does this mean for you?
I got to interpret my own pictures. That was in. You can see my receding hairline, even with
how many years ago that was.
That's an apple. It's an orchard, and I just thought it was cool that I got to crush an apple.
We're all very.
You are hilarious.
Proud of you for that. What does this represent?
Ooh, that was kind of cool, and I thought it was meta.
What is this?
That is the iPhone.
Which one?
The
first one?
It's probably the first one. It's really the first
There's a
time.
big button down here.
You know, it took me forever to get the iPhone because I was like, man, come on. Like, you don't need that. Run your life. Because, well, I was kind of proud of it for a while because everybody was like, oh my gosh. And I just try to get on fads a little bit later. I try not to. A lot of times I don't even buy new books. I wait till I'll wait till they're at the secondhand shop, get them super cheap. I could have my pick for whatever I want, and I like seeing what people are recycling. Like, what didn't make the cut? I don't know. That's maybe a romantic way of looking at some of it.
So
But
this is your eye,
that's my eye.
and this is an iPhone.
It's the sole lens through which we view the world, as someone once said about the iPhone.
Well, that's interesting that that's how you express what you're looking through. So what does this mean then?
Is the glass half full or half empty? For a drunk, it's always half empty. That's funny. Yeah. Hey, I'm a beer. Do you drink beer? What do you drink?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Do you drink anything or not? Nothing.
I drink water.
Okay.
Sometimes Tailwind when I'm running.
Ah, nice.
What is this?
This is a horrible picture. I was in a wedding. This is also Ted Drew's in St. Louis. Ted Drew's has supposed to be the best ice cream. It's another fad. People take wedding photos at Ted Drew's. That's what we were doing. But clearly, I just wanted to eat as much as I'm an ice cream eater. My favorite food is ice cream. You like ice cream?
I love ice cream.
Man, I do too.
Love it.
I eat way too much
Love
ice
it.
cream. Yeah.
Get me next to the Sochi Olympics on a couch in the winter, eating some Rocky Road ice cream.
What about cookies and cream? You like cookies and cream?
That's probably what I meant to say. Yeah, cookie dough or mint chocolate chip.
Oh man, sounds good. Ooh. Wow.
Okay, let's talk about your mental state on this one.
These are rich.
First of all, what is trust the typewriter font? Maybe explain.
Oh, because you know what? That's because it's what everybody was doing, and I still do to this day. I have this little typewriter app that you can type it up, and it just looks older. But I think it's also when you see these types of pretty sayings and pretty poems that I even crank out myself, we kind of tend to trust it a little bit more because it has a pretty font or because of the setup. There's image goes into this stuff a lot, but we trust image.
We do.
Not that we always should, but
we trust the package. Yeah.
We trust the package.
This is something that I'll interject on. I run into a lot where I'll go to expos or conferences and people are very interested in what I have to say. And I am very fortunate that I'm successful. Otherwise, no one would have an interest in what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I say very weird things. And I always tell people ideas are independent of execution, right? Just like the content is independent of the package. So just because I'm a good executor doesn't mean that the ideas are good. You might have somebody else with better ideas, but they can't execute. And so suddenly no one wants to listen to their ideas.
Yeah, it's a good point that if you can't create a process yourself, it's hard to know if what you're hearing as an idea really works. So you kind of have to be able to apply it and try it. But we don't have time to try every idea. We don't.
That is I don't know. You have ideas. We have theoretical concepts. We have frameworks that we can do internally through thought experiments. At some point, we have to filter out what we hear. And you're saying, have you run the experiment or not?
Yeah, imagine if
show me through your life proof that you've ran the experiment.
Yeah, but until you, as a person, you're listening to something. So I'm at your session. I'm listening to you talk. Well, imagine that's how you learn about life. Everything you're listening to people tell you an idea, and you could say like, I don't really know if that works until I try it. And so, but you got a lot of Jasons out there speaking, so you kind of do have to decide.
Okay.
I can't try it all and experiment on it all, but I do believe in experimentation, absolutely, in application.
Because there are very out of shape people that make great coaching plans for runners, right?
Okay.
But it's like, well, I don't want to listen to that person because they're not obviously applying it to themselves.
Or
the reason they're not applying it is because they are very talented at architecting a workout plan. They are very bad at internal discipline. Right?
Yeah,
Sometimes the creative minds are the
Yeah.
worst at the
Right.
execution.
Yeah, but that's one way to say, like, you potentially could still trust what they say, but the converse is also probably as true, which, because you're not saying it's 100% of the time, you're saying sometimes true.
Yeah.
What also is sometimes true is that if a person is telling you something that they haven't been able to practice or put into an experiment, then you don't have to believe it, and it could possibly be that they have no idea what they're talking about. Both of those are kind of sometimes true, so we're using the heuristic of, does it look like this person has done what they say they know? Who was the one that said, or you probably heard it, those who can't do teach.
Those who can't teach consult.
And those who can't teach consult. But
I
that's
added that one.
not true all the time, like you were mentioning, but sometimes it is true.
Yeah.
You just have to, we have different ways of assessing truth, but at some point you have to trust, or you have to learn who you can trust. And probably that happens by trusting some people and then seeing who ends up kind of fulfilling that trust a little bit in confirming what you trusted about them. And then other people don't. So you look for how they fit a type. What kind of type or what kind of category do they fit into of people who tell me things? I'm going to trust that category of people. I want to tend not to trust this category of people. And I'd guess the category of people who can do what they teach and can demonstrate that with close links between the demonstration and the teaching, is your point, then I tend to put more trust in them. But they're not the only people I trust, is another good point too.
Any closing thoughts that you would like? Okay, here's a closing thought for you to close a thought with.
Okay.
If you had the attention of the whole world, or the 12 people who statistically finish these podcasts, what would you want to communicate to them? In a way, you are directing their thoughts and their minds. What is your message?
You know what I think more people need, and if more people did this, I think it'd be a better world for me and the people I love and my extended family and friends and all that good stuff. I think if people took more time to think, I think if they spent more time thinking and learning something I value, I think they'd probably find more happiness, more health in their life. And I think that would reach me and my people over time. I think it'd be good for the world.
So it would be a message of encouragement to think more.
Yeah, and then it's okay. You probably end up with better things, with better products in your life, I think, at the end of it. I think that's the only, otherwise I don't really know what I would tell everybody.
Yeah.
I used to
I
think,
want to make sure I honed it in. Your message would be just think a little bit more. Because there's like a wide variety of people you're talking to. It's the entire world.
Yeah, I think if we took more time to think.
Or the 11 people that watch us.
That's right. Take more time to think.
Take more time
That seems to be something that, if I was looking for something helpful, that may circle back around to me one day.
You want a world where people are thinking?
I always say think, act often. You don't want people just thinking. There's paralysis by analysis. But I think most people tend to act more than they think.
Yeah.
I play a lot of chess, online chess, and I've been collecting a lot of lessons about why I lose or why I win, what I'm taking away, like how to get better each time. And I have a whole growing list of lessons from games in general, from experiences with other people. One of the things is that we really have a very short stamina for thinking. Extended kind of belabored thinking. It hurts. It's not fun. At some point you lose track, you lose focus, you have to stop something else fun that you're doing to think more. It's not about chess that I'm talking about. I think in life. Now, again, there's a peril of thinking too much where it ends up laming you. It paralyzes you from doing the thing you ought to do. Because there's another level here. It's just when you come up with something, it's also scary to act on what you know or what you think might be a better solution. It might take time and there's probably pain involved, but thinking is really, actually, it was somebody who said that thinking probably is the base virtue of humanity. It's what enabled the ascendancy of human beings, Homo sapiens. And it's probably what gets us to better places and happier places in life as a community, as an individual. Anyway, just a thought.
Yeah. That was a good thought. Thanks so much, Chris, for being on the show.
Thanks for your time. Thanks.
As
That was
always,
fun. Very
super
creative,
fun.
man.
Yeah, it's like I'm on a lot of podcasts, but I never get to talk about you experienced this. I never get to talk about what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, how did you grow your painting company? Blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about some silly things.
What's the message you tell people? Do you have a quick one-liner, or what do you have?
Jesus Christ is your personal Lord and Savior. If you do not accept him into your heart, you're going to hell. I would say, let me think. I don't know. It's a theme of like the truth is deeper than you realize, but you also realize that the truth is deep. There can be like an oversimplification, or that idea of like we see a very small part of the universe. We see a very small part of awareness. I think to do life well requires a bit of acknowledging the deepness of reality. Before you go,
You got another one, don't you? Oh.
you said you played chess. Okay, there is one move that the white team can move that will win them the match game via a checkmate. What is that move?
Oh my God. Well, there's only 1, 2, 3.
This is a king.
There's 8 moves. There's 8 moves by the
horse.
or the horse that can be made, and then there's 4 moves by the king that can be made. So
I think there's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 moves the king can make.
Oh, 5. So 8 and 5, 13. So you got 13 possible moves. So I got a 1 out of 13 chance of getting checkmate on this one move, right? One move?
Right. One move.
There.
Oh, sorry. This is a game of chess. Did you say you played chess? I can explain the rules to you real quick. Did you say you do play chess?
Yes. And by the way, the white can move. The white can move, right?
Yeah. The white team has one move, and it's their turn right now to put the black team player into a checkmate.
Oh my gosh. No, there isn't one.
Well, that is the wrong answer.
Okay.
The correct answer is to move to E3.
Okay.
And then the black team will be in a checkmate.
So hold on. E3. How is that?
The horse moves to E3.
Yes.
And then the black team cannot.
Why?
Because the black team has already traversed the board. Their pawns have moved from here to here because the king is on this side.
Oh.
And the pawns can only move straight up from our view.
Yes.
So they could not attack the horsey piece.
Okay. That's good. That's really good.
So this is how we think about the world. Like, oh, of course the pawns are going to go attack this way. It's like, no, you don't understand. The setup of this universe, setup of the architecture is not what you thought. Those who comes first shall be last, as the good book says.
Yes. It's a very good book.
All right. Well, we'll see if this episode makes the cut.
It was fun either way.
It was fun either way. I'm glad you got to do this on a Friday. And I've got a meeting I got to prep for.
Okay.
Dude, great to chat with you. Great to see you
Likewise. Good to see you, man. We'll chat again soon.
It's a
All right.
paintbrush
All right.
and a dream.
Peace.
Paintbrush and a dream.